Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. This is a Wednesday Q&A session. I'm going to go through some really great questions that were asked this week. I'm actually have a lot of really awesome books to show. So even there's like some spec books and there's some first appearance books that you might not be aware of that are going to be in this video just because of some of the questions that were asked. So stay tuned. Should be a really great video. And for those who are not familiar with this Q&A session, basically what I do is I answer last week's questions that were asked on the Wednesday video, and this is the week I answer them. And anyone that asks a question gets a shout out. So some free publicity for whatever channel you might have. Here we get into the questions. So Comic Book Ninja asks, if you were forced to get rid of your entire collection, including your Warren magazines for whatever reason, but were allowed to keep only 5 books, which which books would those be? Okay, so behind me almost answers the question. We got All-Star 8, we got Wonder Woman #1, and my Sensation Comics #1. Those 3, obviously, that's my trinity of Wonder Woman comics. I love Wonder Woman, so those would be my first 3 that I would keep. I would also say my Amazing Fantasy #15, which is kind of a weird one, but it's one of those ones it's becoming so highly priced that and I love Spider-Man, so I don't want to lose all my collection and then just not have that or never be able to get it again. So that's one I would definitely keep. And then strangely, my More Fun Comics #55. So there's other ones like Fantastic Four #1 that I'd love as well. But those 5 would be the ones that I'd choose because they're the ones that just seem to be constantly going up in price and just getting out of my price range. So, and they're ones that I love. So I pretty much love them all. But if I had to pick 5, those would be the 5. Next question. Roly Dolly, that's his name. I think it's a good question for you and the community would be, as far as collecting Golden Age books go, is it better to collect what you like, for example, Westerns, romance, or collecting what the market likes, Superman, Batman, or Captain America? This is a good question. So ultimately, what are you doing with your collection? Are you collecting for yourself, which is what I do? I collect books that I love. Or are you collecting for others? And when I'm saying that, I don't mean that you're collecting just to be cool to others. I'm saying that you're collecting in order to potentially sell, make it an investment, something that down the road you're going to part with. So those are the 2 philosophies that I see. And if you're collecting for yourself, always collect what you love. And if you're in that fortunate situation where the market loves something different than what you love, that's actually a good place to be. Because you're going to get those books that you love cheaply. And generally that's what I try to do. I try to pick books that I love that that the market maybe not as keen on as what I am. So I was collecting stuff that was really, really uncool, like when it was uncool. And later on, the market just happened to catch up, and all of a sudden those books became really cool, hot, expensive books. The same goes for X-Men. X-Men used to be an uncool book. If you go back in the 80s, it was not such a hot book. There was moments where it was not as cool as it is now. Now it's a super hot book, and just the prices are crazy for anything associated to X-Men. There's other ones that were just not hot, for whatever reason. But if you collected those because you love them, generally, if you love something, other people will kind of gravitate to it as well. So sometimes the market will catch up to what you love as well. So I think ultimately it's best to collect what you love and just hope the market someday realizes that how cool those books are, and then you can sell them later as an investment as well. A good example of this, a really good example, and this is one that drives me crazy, is DC books. DC books are so undervalued. Like if you compare and I've been doing this, like my Marvel versus DC segments, and I still have more of those that I'm going to put out. Um, Whenever I do it, I look at the market. It doesn't even make sense. You got like a book that is equally a key, like some major characters like Darkseid versus Thanos, and they're equally big for the different universes, but one commands 10 times the value of the other, even though one might be 10 times more rare than the other one is. So there's a lot of things like that where DC is highly undervalued, but people love it. I love DC comics. And often those books are highly underrated, highly undervalued. So I think someday DC will get its due when it makes a few good movies, and you'll find that those books will generally go up in value. But in terms of collecting romance books and westerns, like right now, westerns are not considered popular. Like I was showing my Tim Holt book, my Tim Holt #6. First appearance of the Calico Kid, later becomes Ghost Rider. That book should be valuable. It is a cheap book to buy, and it's a rare book. There's not many even on the census. But I paid like $300 for it, and it's a nine. It's like 8.0. It should be like 10 times that. But it just is not a hot book because it's a Western. Not many people really collect Westerns right now. It's sort of gone out of favor. But Westerns can come back. You never know. Like some show could come on or some movie series that comes out and it just brings back the popularity. So Westerns could come back. You never know. And romance books actually are starting to heat up. So just so you know, you should probably pick up Golden Age romance books now before they heat up even more. They're really picking up, especially because of Archie. Archie had a bunch of TV series, and that has really driven up the market for Archie. And then people that collect Archie end up saying, hey, these are kind of like romance books, it's always Archie and Betty and Veronica and that three-way triangle thing. And that has brought attention to certain books, romance books from the 60s back into the 50s. And those books have sort of heated up as a result. As well, certain artists have heated up, like Matt Baker, Schomburg, and L.B. Cole. And those guys also did some, well, I'm not sure about Schomburg, but L.B. Cole and Matt Baker did some really great romance books. And those books have kind of been under the radar, but now are heating up. So Golden Age romance, not as unhot as you might think. Okay, so that's hopefully a good answer to him. So the next one is from Richard Leishura, and he asks, do you have any classic Walt Simonson runs on Thor and Fantastic Four? Okay, so I actually don't have runs per se, but I do have some key issues from Walt. Okay, so Walt Simonson, he's actually kind of a well-known artist / writer. He does both. And he actually created a bunch of key characters. He created Star Slammers. He created, and I'm going to show it wherever I put it. One sec here. Got it right here. Wait. Got to be patient with me. He created this guy. Beta Ray Bill was created by Walt Simonson. So this is a great question. So I do have some key issues from him and ones that he created. This is just a really iconic character. So it says, and the great thing about this one, which is Thor 337, is not only is it the first appearance of Beta Ray Bill, sort of a major character, potentially a character that will make his appearance in the MCU, but Walt did the story, he did the art, and the cover. So he did it all for this book. So, it's just a really great, iconic character from a great storyteller and artist. He also did some Fantastic Four that are well known. and I'll show some of them. Some of these have actually heated up a lot recently. And, one is the Minutemen. This is the first appearance of the Minutemen. And this is, again, uh, you know, from Simonson. And this is Fantastic Four 352. So within Fantastic Four, Walt Simonson did from issues like around 300 to the 350s. So just in that era. And this is, so I don't have many in that era from Fantastic Four, but I have a few of the key issues. So there's that one. And then the one issue right after it. So the Minutemen. And then we got this guy. What's his name? Why am I forgetting his name? The guy that was played by in the Loki series. One sec here. I'm blanking on his name. Oh my goodness. Why am I having problems remember people's names today? I know this character. Okay. So that character from the Loki series played by Olsen. Not Luke Olsen. The guy from Okay, you know what I'm trying to say. Owen Wilson. I couldn't remember his name. And I'll remember as I'm doing this recording, and I'll just randomly shout out what the guy's name is because it's on the tip of my brain, but I can't think of it today. Very long day I had today working, so my brain is not 100%. So bear with me on that one. But it is this guy's first appearance, and he's the character from the Loki series, played by Owen Wilson. And I will remember his name sometime during the recording of this video. I'm embarrassed, can't remember it right now. And you're gonna be commenting below, what an idiot you are. They can't remember, and it's like such an obvious name. Okay, so I don't know why I can't remember it right now. But yeah, so those are some from him, and those are all really great books. So yeah, next question is from Comic Mag Musings. Okay, Mr. Maple Leaf, he always makes fun of me for being Canadian. Here's my question. Do you insure your comic book and or coin collections? If so, is it a taxing, detailed undertaking? So what happened was, I actually have points where I did and didn't insure my comics. So what I did was, way back when I was a kid, I actually did an entire inventory of my complete coin collection. And that took me like a month to do. It's like insane. It's just like this big long, and I did it all on paper. It's like all these like notes. I still have it somewhere where I have it. And the values have gone up so much since when I did that. But I did that for insurance purposes, where I had to inventory everything in my coin collection. And I've done the same with my comic collection. But what I've done in order to inventory it, it's been much easier. What I'll do is in eBay, you can export all the auctions that you've won, and you can do the same in some of the other sites where I've bought books. Most of the places that I bought my comics have been online, and the ones that I didn't buy online, I actually added to the same database a listing of all the books that I bought from the actual comic shops. Not the modern ones, but mainly the more older books, the back issue books that are of note. So I have done all that inventory. But what I do for my insurance is I insure under my homeowner's insurance. I'm actually thinking of expanding my insurance, and you'll understand why in one of the later questions. But I do plan to expand my insurance, and part of the reason why I'm preparing those lists is for that very reason, that I don't have a separate policy just for my comics, and something I really should do. Okay, next one is from Rocket Fighter 8. I've had a fun what if question that will require a little research. And I did have to do research for this question. Based on the current fair market values, What would be the conservative estimate of your comic book collection? Okay, so this is one that I had to sort of think about. Um, like I know how much I've spent on my collection. I know how big my collection is. I have about 20,000 books. I was amazed by how many books I had. I actually had to count them in a weird way. Like what I did is I counted all my long boxes and my short boxes and all my, like I have magazine boxes as well. And I figured I have about 20,000 to 20 to 25,000 books. And as a result, the value I figure is around $1 million. I estimated in an earlier video like $500,000. I think I was way out to lunch on that. That was just not realistic because I have a lot of big books that I could name like about 10 books that those alone would be like maybe 100 or 200,000. Like just a group of 10 books that could be that valuable. And then the rest, I have, as I said, about 20 to 25,000. So I'm sort of estimating there's a lot of dollar bin junk in my collection, but there's a lot of keys in my collection. So I was kind of giving a ballpark of like $50 per book overall as an average. So I was thinking about that $1 million mark, maybe 1.5 million. And this is why I was talking about insurance potentially. So that 1 to 1.5 million range. But I'm gonna go on the low end because you can never sell it for what it's actually worth. So I think around $1 million, which is pretty amazing. Actually, I'm amazed that it's worth that much. And that's only because a lot of it has gone up really quickly recently. It's not that I actually spent $1 million. I didn't spend anywhere near that. But I do believe that it could be worth that much. Okay, so now he has a follow-up question. This is from Rocket Fire 8. What would it take? Okay, if you could take that amount in cash. So somebody said, here's $1 million, they get my whole entire collection, and I could just spend it on one comic, okay, of the following mega grails. What would be the highest grade that you could afford for each? Okay. And then they said Action Comics #1. So I looked into the numbers on Action Comics #1. Now, Action Comics #1 for $1 million is what I have. I could afford a 5.0. Based on past sales, I'm figuring a 5.0 would be reasonable. There was a 5.0 that sold in 2018 for 815,000. So I'm thinking that it kind of went up a little bit since then. So I'm thinking a 5.0, Action #1. So all this for one Action 5.0, which is a mid-grade Action Comics. Then we got for the next one on the list is Detective Comics 27. So for $1 million, what could you buy? Well, with $1 million, you could get, like back in 2010, there was a 6.0 that sold for 575,000. So I thought, oh wow, maybe I could get a 6.0. But no. I looked at the census, and there was another sale for 5.0 back in 2021, just this about a month ago, that sold for 1.1 million. So, with that considered, I'm thinking I could get maybe a 4.5 would be in that $1 million mark. So if you have $1 million, you could buy a 4.5 of Detective Comics 27, which actually would be pretty cool. I actually like Detective 27 more than Action Comics #1. It's just a thing. I really like Detective 27. I'm a big Batman fan. The next one is Captain America #1. Well, actually, Captain America #1 is a cheap book in comparison. Now, there was a Captain America #1 that sold in a 9.4. Okay, so a 9.4, that's the highest grade. And it sold for $915,000 in 2019. So I'm thinking that I wouldn't be able to get that now. That'd probably be over $1 million now, easily over $1 million. I'm thinking you could get a 9.2 for around $1 million. So that'd be my guess. Now, he also asks about All-Star 8, Sensation Comics 1, Wonder Woman 1, and AF 15, like Amazing Fantasy 15, all blue labels. So I already have all those ones. So what would be the point? But AF 15, I think you can get like a 9, almost a 9, like for that, because I know there was that recent sale that was a 9 something that sold for 3.6 million. Um, but I think you get just under a 9 for that $1 million mark. Usually there's that much of a spread. Wonder Woman number one, you could get the top graded one for just about $1 million, maybe a little bit over. Sensation Comics number one, the same way. It's around that $1 million mark. So the top grade. So that's my answer to that question. The next one is from Michael L, and he's a member, so I have to give him an extra shout out. Thank you for being a member of my channel. Do you send books off to CGC? And the answer is no. The short answer. But I actually do send books off to CGC too, so it's kind of weird. Do I personally send off books to anywhere? I did send books off to PGX once. I sent out about 50 books to them, and I was sort of mixed feelings about how good PGX was versus some of the other grading companies. I felt like they actually graded harder than what people suggest. They graded quite hard. Like because I actually had my comics professionally graded, because when you buy them from Heritage or from my comic shop, they professionally grade the books. And a lot of the time they were either PGX would grade pretty much the same or slightly lower. So I was actually surprised by that. And there was a few books that I thought were 9.8s, and I got like a 9.4 on them. So, you know, they were pretty harsh on the grading, more than I would have thought. Especially on those higher grades. Lower grades, I thought they were a little easier, a little lenient, actually. But with CGC, I have sent books off to CGC, but I didn't do it myself. I didn't do it personally. And the way that I sent books off to CGC was through a comic shop. So what happened was I bought a bunch of comics, I bought a bunch of major grails, actually, from one comic shop. Half of them weren't graded, like in terms of being put in a case. Other half were. So the ones that I've already showed some of those ones. Like I'm going to show it later, but my showcase 1, my showcase number 22, those books were already previously graded. But there was a bunch of books that I'll be doing a future unboxing once they ever come back that went off to CGC, because this comic shop has a deal with CGC, and they will send books off for you to CGC. So they said, they'll send off the rest to CGC for me. I had to pay like $600, so it was quite a lot. It's really expensive sending to CGC, and it's one of the reasons why I did do through my own stuff PGX, because PGX was cheaper. They had like the value tier within PGX is much lower standard than the way it is with CGC. With CGC, you're paying that extra premium on grading, which I think is a little bit unfair. But that's the way they do it. And also PGX was so much faster, like month turnaround compared to like 6 months with CGC. So, I find CGC is just really, really slow, and I'm very paranoid sending to my books away for such a long time where I don't know what's going on with them. So those are my feelings about CGC. I do like the slabs the best from CGC though. They look the sharpest. Okay, next one is Collecto6 asked, what are your favorite 3 Silver Age DC titles and favorite 3 Marvel Silver Age Marvel titles? And he said what his ones were. For him, it was Flash, Hawkman, Batman for Silver Age DC, and for Marvel, it was Strange Tales, Tales to Astonish, Tales of Suspense. So I actually think that those were pretty good picks. They weren't what I picked though. So I picked the following. I'll show you the ones I picked. I want to show you the Marvel ones first. So I got them out. They're not a, like, this is not number 1, 2, 3. It's not like that. But I'll show you my 3 favorite series from the Silver Age, and I'll show you the first books from them. So this is Amazing Spider-Man number 1. To me, Spider-Man's one of the coolest characters. He has a lot of cool villains, and he kind of like changed things up in terms of the way superheroes worked. He was like this teenager, a little bit of that teenage drama in his stories. I really like Spider-Man as a character, and I like the comic series. I enjoyed it, and the movies that kind of came from Spider-Man. So this would be one of my favorite series from the Silver Age altogether, not even just DC or Marvel, like altogether. Spider-Man. So the next one would be X-Men. X-Men, this is X-Men number 1. My very crappy, I always complain about this book. It's just so beaten up. But this is X-Men number 1. And this is the other series that I love from the Silver Age. So another great Silver Age series. And, there's so many great characters that came out of X-Men. Like, you got Magneto, you got Professor X, you got, Storm and Wolverine. And, there's just so many great characters that came out of X-Men. So you got to love X-Men. And then we got Fantastic Four. Now, I really love Fantastic Four. And I've actually collected it the hardest of all these of all these series. So I think it's kind of the series that put Marvel on the map. It is what really defined Marvel to the Silver Age, and it made it the dominant company. So that now we think Marvel is the number 1, DC is number 2, and it was because of this book. So Fantastic Four number 1, and the series Fantastic Four. So that would be my Marvel, Silver Age favorite series. And then we got DC. So I'm going to agree with Collecto6 on Batman. So this is the very first Silver Age Batman, according to CGC. Okay? Now there's some debate about this, but this is the one that CGC recognizes as the first Batman in the Silver Age. Now, there is an earlier Batman, like Batman 90 is when they first get the Marvel, not the Marvel, but the Comic Code Authority stamp on it. So a lot of people say, well, that should mark the Silver Age, but it doesn't. There's a period where it's considered part of the Atomic Age, where there's the Comic Code Authority on it, but it's not considered part of the Silver Age. So this would be the first Silver Age Batman. So if you're looking for those kind of key Batman books, this would be one of them. This is Batman 103. So this is one of the series that I really love from the Silver Age is Batman. The next, I'm gonna make it it's so obvious, is Wonder Woman. I love Wonder Woman. So with DC, it's a little different than Marvel. Like DC had these characters that were just long running, and they ran from back in the golden age into the modern age. And Marvel, had some of its characters that ran that long, but the ones that really defined the Silver Age were really the ones that I mentioned. This one is like, the first Silver Age Wonder Woman, and it came in 1958. So it's kind of later than some of what are other books that are considered Silver Age. But this is one of the things that defines Silver Age for DC books is not necessarily the time. Like, it's not like a specific date, like 1956 is the Silver Age. No, it wasn't quite that way. What defined the Silver Age in terms of the characters was the way that they were written. So this is another origin story for Wonder Woman, and it's kind of the rebranding of Wonder Woman in a way. So this is the first Silver Age Wonder Woman, which is Wonder Woman 98. So this is a great series. I love Wonder Woman. I have her entire Silver Age run. So another reason why I would choose that book. Now, the next book is one that is not super obvious. One that not many people would have guessed would be my pick for a DC favorite series, but it is a good one. It is Showcase, and this is Showcase number 1. And Showcase is a great series. It's not like not a title series, like where it's like one particular character and they just do a series of it, but it is a series in itself. And I actually think that it's a very important series because so many key characters made their first appearances in Showcase. So we got the Flash, first Silver Age appearance was in Showcase. We have Rip Hunter. We have Adam Strange. We have Green Lantern, Silver Age. Dolphin, which is another cool book. We have Power Girl, all making their first appearances in Showcase. So Showcase was kind of like a book where they would introduce key characters, and those characters would then later get their own series. So Aquaman, another character that made his first appearance in the Silver Age in Showcase. So these are all kind of keys for me. These Showcase books, and they're a great series. It's because you really get that introduction to those characters. So definitely a series that I'm actually thinking of collecting the entire run of Showcase. I've been picking up all the major keys from Showcase, but now I'm thinking maybe I'll just get those filler issues. There's a lot of there's so many characters that I didn't even mention that made their first appearances in Showcase. A really great under the radar, not 100% under the radar, but slightly under the radar series. Everybody knows Showcase 4. Everybody knows Showcase, 6, and 22. All those ones are pretty well known. But, there's a lot of keys that are in there in the Showcase series that maybe are a little bit under the radar that people haven't really picked up yet. So definitely a great run with Showcase. So definitely one I really do enjoy. Okay, so that would be my 3 picks. So again, it was X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man. And for DC, it was Batman, Wonder Woman, and Showcase. Okay, so the next question is the last question, and it's from John Gabriel. Oh, just so you know, before I answer his question, Collecto6, he asked his question to me on Instagram. So I really recommend anyone that's kind of following this channel, check me out on Instagram. It's just Comic Collector Geek on Instagram. You can see all the books that I'm buying right now. And that haven't even arrived in for future unboxings. They're books that I just picked up literally today, kind of level. So you can see all that if you go to my Instagram account. Okay, so the next one is John Gabriel, and he asks, I know that, like me, you have a love for paper comic books, but I'm specifically asking you to answer this question with your business head and not your collector's heart. My question is this: as a successful businessman yourself, do you think it makes long-term financial sense for main comic companies to continue to publish paper comics, copies of comic books, when they could make a lot more money just supplying digital copies? Okay, so the question is, should we just eliminate? Why even bother printing comic books anymore? You could read all these things online, and I read all my books online. Sometimes I actually read the actual comics, but often I read things online. And the question becomes, it's very expensive printing comics. Why bother? Why bother printing them? And the reason I would say is in business, and this is my business head, this is the way I think. So you're going to see a little bit of my business way of thinking. You don't leave a dollar on the table. And it's a very classic business way of thinking. You don't leave a dollar on the table. And what that means is you don't miss an opportunity. So if you can make an extra dollar doing something, do it. So when with marketing, a lot of my clients say, "Well, you're really good at SEO." Like that's what I do. I'm an SEO guy. I'm really good at that. I actually can get people ranked on Google pretty consistently. Um, so they say, why bother doing AdWords? Okay, why do AdWords if you can get the rankings for free? And again, it's don't leave a dollar on the table, because there will be a percentage, about 20% of people will click the ads versus the free listings. So there's still that 20% of the market that you're missing out on if you just focus on SEO. So the point is, you don't want to leave that dollar on the table. Even if it's a small market, even if it's a dying market, whatever, you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. So you still go for it and you try to do well in that market. Comic books, there will always be a demand for that tangible, physical book. And as long as there's a demand, why not sell to that demand? Demand drives people to produce. So one of the things is you can leverage that. And I'm a big fan of this idea of cross marketing, where you create your digital component, which is your online, whatever it is, your whole online presence about the comics, whatever it is. But you also create that tangible asset that people want to collect. And I've noticed, and you can verify this, but if you go to Kickstarter, there's a lot of independent publishers that are going out, and like these are artists, these are creators that are producing comics on Kickstarter, and they're making big money, big money producing books, and actually maybe more money than they would if they printed the normal way through a like a regular company. And the reason for that is people want to buy those tangible comics, and they sponsor those Kickstarter campaigns. So there is that huge demand for the digital copy. But there's even bigger demand for that tangible asset. And you want to basically target both. And that's why I think don't stop printing books. Do not stop printing comics, because there is a huge demand. We don't see the runs that we used to. And I actually put a caveat to that. But we don't see the runs like back in the 90s. That was sort of the height of the comic market before the golden age. The golden age was really the height of the comic market. But if you look at the 90s, you get basically the situation where in the 90s, they would print like millions of comics, like X-Men 1. I think it had like 5 million. It was some number. It was some big number. A lot of these books had orders of millions of comics. Not that there was actually a million buyers for those comics, but there were a million printed. Spawn 1 is another good example of that, where there was just maybe more comics than actual buyers, but those same buyers would buy like 5 different comic, like, or even lots of those comics. Like you get these people specking where it's X-Men #1, it's Spawn #1, I gotta get like 20 copies of it. So those same, even though there was more comics than buyers, it didn't matter, you could still sell to those same buyers. And that's what we're kind of seeing now, in a way, but in a different way. They know that they don't have the pool of buyers has shrunk since the 90s. But what they're doing is they're doing the variant covers. And this is like a big, I talked about it in a lot, my previous weekly questions. I was going on about the variants. Well, the variants are the way that these publishers are really making extra money on selling comics. They can, if I can sell you 5 comics instead of 1, why not do it? And that's what they're doing. They're creating like so many variant issues. Like I've seen ones where there was literally 20 different covers for for a comic, and you'd see people buy all 20 covers because they want to have that comic and in all of its forms. And that's really one of the tricks that they do. As a business person, you always have to see that opportunity. How can I make as much money as I can by selling comics? Do I do it digitally? But how do I not leave $1 on the table? How do I find all the different avenues to really make money from that digital or tangible asset that I have? So that's kind of the way I see it from a business standpoint. I would not stop printing if I was in the same situation as Marvel. I'd be like, how can I make more money printing? How can I make more money through digital? How can I make more money in general? So that's my 2 cents on it. I'd love to hear people's feedback. How would you answer these questions? So there was a bunch of questions. I'd love to hear your answers. What were your favorite Silver Age series? What were your favorite Golden Age series? What were your, if you could sell your whole collection, how much would it be worth? And what would you buy with all that money? These are kind of fun questions. So I really enjoyed reading all of your questions this week. And this is my ask of you. Please leave some more questions in the comments below, and I will answer them next week. So thanks again for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and bye for now.